Good afternoon. My name is Barbie and I own Jeannie's Designs, and I am doing a new tutorial on one that actually I've only seen one out on YouTube and it's I think it's in Spanish. I'm not really sure, but I was able to follow along and see it. But this is on the Shambala Agustina. See if you can see that. This is a fantastic bag. I actually carry mine, except I changed it out because we were going somewhere and I needed a smaller bag. So this is the one I've made. I've made several, but this one is in black vinyl, and then this is cotton canvas, this rose. So you can see it's wider on the bottom than it is on the top. On the back, it has a zipper pocket that is actually, oops, I just closed it, actually pretty good size. I have something in there. What's in there? Oh, a receipt. Okay. And then it closes with 2 magnetic snaps. It has a front pocket that has a magnetic snap. And then it has a huge inside with another zipper pocket that actually you can hold a lot. And then on the front panel, it has 2 slip pockets. And then you can see what it looks like on the inside. It's pretty good size. This one I made with an adjustable strap, and I've been carrying it for a while. I just don't think it needs it. So this next one I'm making today, I'm making out of cork, and I'm gonna make it with a shoulder strap. I think that's absolutely fine. It doesn't really need it, but it can be changed out for a crossbody strap if necessary, because it's got these connectors. That's how I'm going to do that one as well. So that's the bag we're making today. It is a very versatile bag. It actually holds quite a bit. I am going to be using some black cork, gorgeous, with silver flecks in it. So this is black cork. And then my contrast is going to be a light blue. I am going to do the piping on it. It does call for piping, so I am going to be doing that. And then the top just has this. There's a couple pieces that I'm doing in the blue, and then I'm using blue zipper tape. I am using silver nickel hardware today. I'll be putting my logo on. There's 3 magnetic snaps that you need. I am doing the rivet magnetic snaps, 2 D-rings, and then 2 zipper pulls, number 5 zipper pulls, and 2 swivel clasps. 1-inch hardware is what I'm using today. So I have my 2 handle connectors prepped. These are just 2-inch pieces divided down the middle. I'll be folding the raw edges in. You won't see those, so I'll be doing those. And then for my shoulder strap, I do have it prepped with, it's divided in half as well. It's a 4-inch piece, divided in down the middle, and then double-sided tape on each side. So I will be folding that in as well. This is the front panel top. So it's this piece, the decorative piece. I am doing that in the light blue, and in the pattern it tells you how to fold that up so there aren't any raw edges. So I have my double-sided tape on there already, and I'll be folding that up in anticipation of putting it on this piece, which is the flat panel bottom. So that goes there, and we'll stitch that in place. So that actually just creates one side of the flap. So I'll be doing that, and there are actually quite a few pieces to this. Let me show you what I'm using for my lining. This is my lining. It's a batik cotton, and I've lined all those pieces with woven interfacing. It does, once you get the back and the front together, it does call for Decaville Light. So I will be putting that on, and I also will be putting a piece of Decaville Light in between the flap layers. So It's a very versatile bag, like I said. This will be a fairly lengthy video. I will try my best to speed it up where I can, where you've seen me do things before. So I'm going to do the handle connectors, and I'm going to do the shoulder strap, and I will change my camera angle so you can see my machine and see what I'm doing. So be sure to click like and subscribe and comment. All right, so I created my shoulder strap. There's just one. And I created my two handle connectors. I am going to sew these on, so I did not sew those together yet. I just put a piece of double-sided tape in there. So when I get ready to put them on the gusset, I'll sew those on. So that's those two. And then I created the front flap. And I think I'm going to put my logo here. I might put it underneath, but anyway. The underneath of the flap, I put a piece of Decaville Light, and then on the pattern piece, it tells you where to put your metal snaps, so I already marked those. I'm going to use rivet snaps, so I will be punching a hole through both pieces. So now we want to put these right or wrong sides together and clip these. Somebody just rang my doorbell, but I'll get it in a second. And then we're going to be sewing around 1/4 of an inch, and then we will be trimming it so it's nice and even. She says to glue these together. I don't really think they need to be glued together. I might, actually. I have glue, so I might do that. I don't believe I glued the others together. I think I will. I will glue them together and let them sit for a minute, and then we'll come back and top stitch around that and add our 2 magnetic snaps. All right, I'm just using some 3-in-1 glue, craft glue, that's all it is. And I put some on there. I didn't overdo it. And then just gonna put those 2 pieces together. And let them sit for just a minute, and then I'm going to top stitch all the way around that. The other glue that you could use is a craft spray. A lot of places call it temporary glue. You could certainly do that as well. I obviously didn't get mine cut out very good, but that's absolutely fine. This top piece is all going to be covered with the decorative piece. So let's let that sit for just a few minutes. And I will get the next step all ready after we finish this. And probably a good thing to do would be to put a book or two or something heavy on this. That would help it adhere pretty good. I'm going to do that. So I'll be right back. All right, I've let that sit for a few minutes. I'm ready to just do a 1/4 inch seam. Some of these places I don't have quite a 1/4 inch, so I'll just do an 1/8 there. Top stitch. I did go ahead and put my magnetic snaps in here as well. They're out of the way of any stitching. I'll show you here in just a second. Go slow, very visible stitching. I'm going to close up my top because I use the ribbon magnetic snap, so I don't need this open for any reason. So I'm just going to stitch across the top as well. This is all going to be hidden under my decorative piece that it's on the back, so you won't see it. All right, so there's the front, the back. So here's the front of the flap. I put my 2 magnetic snaps, they're rivets, so they'll have a decorative piece, and then you flip it up and there's your 2, oh, you can't see it, 2 magnetic snaps on both sides. So I am gonna just trim this down now, and then we're gonna get ready for the next step. All right, so I trimmed my front panel, so that's what it looks like. The front and the back. I need to move you over here so you can actually see what I'm showing you. So magnetic snap, the male portion of the magnetic snap is on the flap, and I have trimmed it all the way around. And just FYI, I use materials that are raw edge, so I use cork and vinyl for this. It's probably easier to do that. There's no reason that you couldn't use cotton canvas or something like that. You're just gonna have to add a little bit to the measurement. And I think she actually talks about that in the pattern. All right, so the next step is take your front exterior pocket top and mark for your magnetic snaps, and I already did that, and I already installed those. So those are the 2 female portions. I did reinforce the back of those because there's nothing on this vinyl. There will be, but not yet. And then take your front exterior pocket bottom. I put my logo on there already as well. And then we are gonna sew that, and I believe, yeah. Most of her seam allowances are fairly narrow, so just keep that in mind when you're doing things. So we're going to sew those 2 together. Oh, and I've got a really, that's all right, small stitch length because I was putting my logo on. I'll talk about that here in a second. I'll make sure I don't lose my pieces. So when I put my logos on, I use about a 2.5 width stitch length. It just looks better, and you can turn those corners pretty easily. I did top stitch because I'm using black on black. So there's absolutely no reason I couldn't top stitch that. And back stitch is really what I meant. All right, so fold that seam down, and we are gonna top stitch on top of the bottom piece. And I don't know if you noticed in the fast forward, I had to change my bobbin. I should be good now. I put in a full bobbin. But whenever you're doing top stitching, I say this in all my videos, check your bobbin before you do any top stitching. You don't want to run out of bobbin when you're top stitching. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it doesn't look good. All right, so that's what you should have. My cutting out got a little wonky. That's okay. So now we want the front exterior pocket and the front exterior pocket lining. Let me find that. I believe that's this, but let me just make sure. Front exterior to the front exterior pocket lining. Let me see. No, here it is. Okay. So the front exterior pocket lining. Now, so that we're going to sew those two together. There is another magnetic snap that closes this against the back panel, and I will be putting those on, but I'm going to use that rivet magnetic snap, so it can be done afterwards. If you're using a magnetic snap that has the prongs, please follow the directions in the pattern. So these two we're going to do right sides together. And we are going to stitch that at the seam allowance in the pattern, which is the same most of the time. And then we are going to fold that over. Isn't that just pretty with this? Oh my gosh. And I could go and iron this since I'm using cotton quilting fabric. I don't think I'm going to. I'm just going to finger press it. I don't really like ironing my cork. You can lightly iron it, but it doesn't like it. I'll just tell you. And it's so expensive. It's just not worth risking it. All right, and then we are going to top stitch that at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. You should really try this bag. It is so versatile. I mean, when you buy the pattern, there are tons of inspirational photos that it's just exciting, I think, personally. All right, so there we have that. And it's okay if my lining came underneath there just a little bit. That's absolutely okay. All right, so I'm going to go get the next step ready, and I'll be right back. All right, so I installed, so here's my front exterior bottom pocket, the one with my logo, and I installed the male portion of my magnetic snap, and she gives you, let's see, where is that? Yeah, she gives you the directions of where that goes on the pattern piece. So I'm going to set that aside for just a minute. And then we are taking the, let's see, what is this? What does she call this? The front exterior panel bottom, which is a lining piece, and the front exterior panel top, I already inserted the magnetic snap where it's supposed to go, and this is the female portion. We are going to sew those right sides together at the seam allowance that she gives you in the pattern. And then we will sew those two pieces together. If you don't have a zipper foot on your machine, you might want to wait to install that magnetic snap just to be sure that you can get by it with your presser foot. I have my zipper foot on all the time, pretty much. Okay. All right, then we are going to fold that up, and the seam allowance is going to be going down, and we're going to top stitch on the lining piece, 1/8 of an inch. Goodness, that magnet is very strong. Okay, so we've done that, and we have our magnet, and now we are going to attach these two together. So I always just put the magnet on there, and then I know where it's supposed to go. It's not going to be perfectly even. At least mine never is, all the way around the sides. Just do your best. I did a terrible job of cutting this out today. That's absolutely okay. And now we are going to just baste these pieces together. Man, I really did, didn't I? You can see it, it's terrible. All right, so we're just gonna baste these at an 1/8 inch seam allowance. We're creating that front pocket. Then I will just go along and cut off my excess where I didn't do a very good job of cutting that out. So now you can see we've just created that front pocket, and I gotta fix that. Let's see. What happened there? I have my thread shredded. Okay. Well, I will do that. I will rethread my machine, and then I will cut off any excess that I have. I'll be right back. Okay, so we have our front exterior pocket now, and that's all done. I cleaned it up. So we're going to set that aside. The next thing we're going to do is on this back exterior panel bottom portion, since I'm using a non-fraying material, I just cut that out. If you're using a cotton or a cotton canvas, she gives you very explicit directions to fold that down and create about a 1/4 inch on all 4 sides. so you don't have any of those raw fraying edges showing. But I'm using cork, so I'm good with that. All right, now we're going to take our back exterior pocket lining and our zipper, and the pocket lining is right side up, the zipper is right side up, and the zipper pull is to the right. I know it feels weird, but that's right. And now we are just gonna baste that in place. Yeah, at about a 1/4 inch seam. Now she tells you to put a row of double-sided tape here, because we're gonna fold that back against that. I know it feels weird. I'm gonna use some of my 1/8 inch, so my machine doesn't get too gummy. So the whole purpose of that is just to fold that down, your zipper down flat. You see me do this in some other videos as well. All right, so that's what you should have. It feels weird because that's the back of your zipper. But now what we're going to do is put this on the top. Oops. Here. Get your zipper pull out of the way. And I'll use some double-sided tape, but I wanted to show you first. So you just want to get this top of that front panel lined up with the top of the zipper, just like that. And then what we're going to end up doing is pulling that zipper pocket up to the top, creating the pocket. Very ingenious. All right, so I'm going to put a little piece of, again, 1/8 inch double-sided tape on this bottom edge, so I can get that to stick good on both of the sides as well. I don't want it going anywhere on me. All right, so I'm going to do the bottom first. All right, so our zipper pocket is wrong side up, our zipper is right side up, and we are going to match that as evenly as we can to the top of that zipper, and getting the zipper tape again as evenly as we can. Takes a little finagling, and that's absolutely okay. All right, so now I'm going to take that little piece I put on the side here, if I can get it off. Yep. So that should match up to the top of your zipper. Same thing over here. So that's what you should have right now. I know it feels weird, doesn't it? It's a beautiful thing though. So now we are gonna stitch around the side, the bottom, and go back up to the top. And I'm just gonna put a little clip there. And then we're gonna pull that zipper pocket up. So I'm gonna get this stuff out of the way. So this is just a top stitch again. Make sure you have good seam allowance. I mean bobbin in your bobbin. Top stitching, so go fairly slow. I'll have to move my zipper pull out of the way here in a second. Okay. All right, so the next thing we want to do is pull that up. Let me just make sure I'm not telling you a story. Yeah. Pull your zipper pocket up to the top edge of your zipper teeth. And just make sure it's even. And we are gonna just stitch yeah. She doesn't have you do this, but I'm gonna do it. I don't know why. Hold on a second. Okay, I see what she's doing. She doesn't want you to stitch that just yet, so we're just gonna put a piece of double-sided tape there to keep that in place until we get another top piece on. You could baste it in place, but I'm trying to do it for you guys to follow the directions. I think I basted this in place last time, but I'm doing it the way she's got it in the pattern. All right, so double-sided tape on that bottom exterior, the bottom pocket, zipper pocket, the right side, and then just put that on the top of your zipper tape. So that's what you should have. There it is on the back, and there it is on the front. Now we are gonna close those zipper pockets on the side. So with your front bottom face up, fold your zipper, fold that back and top stitch your zipper pocket closed. This is not unlike many other pockets that we close the sides and how we do it. So do that on the other side. Right side up, your pocket's right side up, fold it over and close that zipper pocket side. You can see I go over that zipper a couple times. And then I will just trim that up just a little bit. Man, I'm having trouble grabbing my threads today. Using my zipper teeth scissors. Do that on both sides, and then we will burn the end of our zipper, just so it doesn't fray. This black and the blue is going to be so pretty. All right, so that's what you should have. So now you have your back zipper pocket. It is finished, and it's got the right side of the fabric showing. Okay. I'm just burning a few threads there. So now you want to take the back exterior panel middle. I can find that piece. Back exterior panel middle. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. All right, I found it. Back exterior panel middle. And we are gonna sew that on top of our back pocket. And that's gonna finish off that back pocket zipper. I'm just looking for my seam allowance. So pay attention, this seam allowance is a little different. Than it is for most of the seams. Man, I'm having challenges. There we go. Okay, so sew those two together. You shouldn't have to move your zipper, but in case you do, just move it out of the way until you get past it. I'm gonna go ahead and just move mine. There you go. This ends up being a fairly narrow strip. I did use the blue just as a contrast. We'll see how it looks. Okay. And now we are going to fold the seam that we just created up towards the middle piece that we just added and top stitch that at 1/8 inch seam allowance. And it wants to go up anyway. So we're really just pushing it where it wants to go. Go as slow as you need to. And there you have it. So that's the back pocket finished. I love it. It's beautiful. All right, so now we want to mark the center of this. I'm going to trim this up. I knew I didn't get this the same. No, that looks pretty good. I got it a little long, and that's all right. But now we're going to mark the centers of this piece and our flap. So mark those centers. However you do them. Some people put a little notch there and others just put a little slit. I just put a tiny little notch. Both of these are going to be covered. Okay, and now we want to put a clip in our back exterior panel top, and I did an absolute awful job with that. So I'm gonna go straighten that up. Look at that. What in the world was I doing? That is pretty bad. Okay, I'm gonna go straighten that up. I'll be right back. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is take your back exterior panel middle. Actually, I think this is the back exterior panel top. This piece. And your flap. And put them both right sides up. So let me, I put here's the back exterior panel, middle, which I cleaned up. Remember, it was a mess. I put center marks in both of those. I put a center mark on my flap. So I'm gonna lay those both right sides. This is a little confusing. So right sides up. Believe me, it works out beautifully. And you want to just make sure, and if you've marked your centers, it should be fine that you have the same amount on both sides here. And we do. Now we're going to just base that in place at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Then we are going to take our back pocket and we are going to lay those right sides together, matching our notches. So there's our back pocket, here's our flap, and there's that middle piece, or top piece. I don't remember what she calls it. I think it's the top. Back exterior panel top. And we are gonna pin those together, clip those together, and we're gonna do the seam allowance that she calls for in the pattern, which is, and we're gonna sew those together. Trust me, this works out really well. The first couple times I did this pattern, I was like, what? I'm telling you, some of these bag designers are just brilliant, I think. Okay, now, so now what you want to do, so you see this, your back panel and your flap, you want to top stitch across this seam right here with it going down. I'm gonna get this out of the way. Okay, so your seam allowance is going towards this piece, and we're just gonna top stitch that. So let me show you what we got. So here's our flap. It's gonna come over like that. And there's our back piece with that extra piece that covers the raw edge of our flap. So, but there's that top exterior back piece right there. And when we go to sew this together, that's gonna come, the panels together, that's gonna come in extremely handy. All right, so that's what we have so far. take the time to clean up any raw threads and burn those, and then we'll be back and we will work on the gusset. Okay, so we finished our front and back panels. I did, like I mentioned in the beginning, go ahead and add some Decaville Light to those finished front and back panels out of my single ounces. So I did add those. And then on our gussets, I finished one. She gives you in the pattern piece a place to put the connector. And so I used that to add my connector. She has, in her pattern, she has some other connectors, which I actually like, but I just don't have any. And so I sew that on all the way around, 4 sides, and then I put 2 rivets on. So that's all that is. So I'm gonna do the other one here with you. And then the other thing that I did is I made one of my pipings. This is just the measurement in the pattern, and then I added this small cotton woven piping, cording, whatever you want to call it. This is 3/16 inch. And I didn't get really close to it. It's not pretty, but once I put it on my bag, I am going to use my cording foot. So I will change that out. It just gives a much, much better look. So I am going to finish this other gusset handle connector, and then I'm going to do my other piping, just making it, and then I'll come back and we'll add the piping to our front, one of our panels. I think it's the back. All right, so I will do this at a fast forward. You have seen this before. Okay, I remember when I did this before. She, in her pattern, she gives you the width for this. I remember now, this is very narrow, especially for even a 3/16 cording. I would add 1/4 of an inch to this width. I think it's 1 1/4. I think last time I made mine 1 1/2, and it's much easier to sew this on. It's very difficult to get this on. Maybe it's the fabric I'm using, the vinyl, I don't know. Could be. All right, then in the pattern, she gives you the place to start and stop the piping. So mark those on both sides. And I'm gonna, I'm attaching it. What did I do here? Yeah. I'm using the front pocket to put it on. And actually, we have to do it on the front and back now that I think about it. So you gotta mark that spot on both sides. Just make sure it's about even. So we put 2 of these on. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Only 1, that would have been fabulous. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna change my zipper foot to a piping foot. It just makes all the difference to get that piping close. So I'm gonna change that out. Looks like I need to clean up my needle a little bit. Got a little gummy there. And then I'll show you putting one of the pipings on, and then I'll fast forward the other ones. All right. All right, I changed out my piping foot to my piping foot. And my machine requires a special tool that I used my little handy screwdriver, magnetic screwdriver set for. It requires this little weird tool. There's a name for it. My husband knows what it is. But I'm going to start and stop on that mark I made. So I've got my little, there we go. Let me pull that off to the side. And the beauty of this piping foot, you'll see it when I get done. It gets it nice and close. So I'll use it when I put the gussets on too. Let me get this out of the way. Now, also depending on, oh my gosh, that looks fantastic. Depending on your fabric, it will determine whether you need to clip this. I am going to clip it just a little bit so that it goes around those curves better. I mean, I did 3 clips. That's all it needed. Oh my gosh. This is going to look so cool on this bag. If you don't have a piping foot, use a zipper foot. Then you can get as close as possible to the piping. And again, you don't have to do the piping. The piping is optional. I didn't do it on my first one. I'll tell you though, it adds a tremendous amount to the look of the bag, especially when you do a contrasting color. I think I missed connecting that, so I'm just going to go back over it just a hair. And then when you get up to this end, don't forget to come off at your mark. Cut off any excess piping. Oh, this is so cute. Okay, but you can see how nice and tight that gets that piping. It's a beautiful thing. All right, so I'm going to do it on this other piece with my other piping, and then I'll come back. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is create our gusset, and the bottom piece has a piece of heavy Decaville light. Decaville heavy. The sides just have Decaville light. You could use either. I probably could have used heavy here, but we are just going to line those up, and I think I'm going to clip my centers. I know I preach that all the time, and I did not do it. And then we're going to sew that bottom to each of our gussets. So you can see how much time it saves if you're going to do it before you get started. And I'm going to do my sides here too. I'm going to do my sides here too. I know somebody said I was mumbling. I don't mean to mumble. I'm really just talking to myself. But that is not helpful to you, is it? All right, so I'm going to take one of my gussets, my side pieces, and I'm going to add that to the bottom, and I'm going to sew that together. Let me see if I can use my piping fit without having to change it back out. They're kind of a pain to change. I'll do it if I have to, but let me see if I can get away with it. I think I can. Yeah. It doesn't matter what foot you're using. That's funny. All right, then we're going to fold that over with the seam towards the base. We're going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. You can do 1/4 inch if you'd like. Most top stitching is 1/8 of an inch. It's no hard, fast rule though. All right, then we're going to put our other gusset on, meeting those centers. And do that seam allowance. Pay attention to the seam allowance. It's a little different than some of the others. And then I'm going to flip that over and top stitch that as well. Seam allowance going towards the bottom. Okay. When you have black thread, it gets everywhere, doesn't it? All right, now you could add purse feet to this. I don't think it needs it, but you could certainly add, at your desire, some purse feet. I am going to even this out a little bit, just slightly, on each side of this one gusset. Man, next time I cut this out, I need to pay a little more attention. I did a terrible job of getting good pieces. All right, now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to grab our front panel, which is the one that has the front magnetic pocket. Find your center. And we are going to match that up with the center that I made on the bottom piece. Again, it's a good thing I left my piping foot on. And I'm going to get my wonder clips so it holds this a little bit better. And if you watched my sewing essentials video, this is one application. Where I'm going to use my bigger clips. I just pinned myself because it goes over that piping very nicely. So just pin the bottom or clip the bottom. And then you're going to bring that gusset up to the top of your front pocket piece and clip that around. Now again, you may, depending on your fabric, you may have to clip the corners or you may not. Yeah, I'm going to have to clip my corners just a little, but let's do it together. So I'll do this side. Clip that in place. Again, these clips are not an essential tool, but they sure do come in handy. I don't have that many of them. But, see, I pinned myself on that stupid pen. This side actually looks pretty good. This side, yeah, let me clip this corner just a little. So clip the gusset, not your back piece. And let that spew out a little bit. Spew out, that's a really technical term, isn't it? Spread out is probably a better professional sewing word. And just get that on there and get it clipped good before you go to sew that on. Oh, I don't have any more, do I? I have to use some of these. That's right. And I usually will sew from the gusset. Now you could staple this. I don't think I'm going to. I don't think it needs it. I may regret that. But you could staple it. Use as many clips as you need to. I always err. Yeah, on the side of more clips. Okay. So we want to do, what is first seam allowance for this? Let me see. Yeah, it's not a very big seam allowance, so you're going to have to just pay attention to that. I just want to make sure I get my piping on there good. Okay. And you can kind of feel, make sure your D-ring or square ring is out of the way. It is, but let me get my stiletto out here. You can feel where your piping is, so just make sure you're not sewing over your piping. And then take your time on the curves. Where's my piping? There it is. Try not to get any puckers. You may end up having a pucker or two. Not the end of the world. Yeah, I ended up going over my, right on top of my piping. That's all right, we'll just pull that out a little. There we go. All right, let's try that again. Okay, let me feel that piping with my fingers rather than use my stiletto. Much better. I'm gonna just take a peek. Looks fantastic. And this is time consuming, so just go slow. Once we get past this part, it's really not bad. I am going to have some puckers, I can tell already. That's all right. It happens. Make sure your D-ring or square ring, whichever it is out of the way. Okay, let's see what we got. I'll push it out so you can see it. Oh my goodness. I'll clip some of those threads. There's some threads showing, but there you have it. Isn't that so nice? I don't remember how much my piping foot costs from my fabricator, but it is worth every penny. It's absolutely worth every penny. Okay, see, I gotta tear this out and make sure I get that inside the seam. Not a big deal. All right, so then I am gonna do the other side, but I will do it a fast forward. Again, the piping, not mandatory. In fact, maybe the first time you make this bag, you don't do the piping until you get comfortable on where all the pieces go and all of that. But then I would highly recommend that you at least try it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, my first piping wasn't perfect either. This probably isn't going to be perfect. It'll hurt my feelings if it isn't, but you know what? It's not the end of the world. All right, so I'm going to make sure that when I sew that up again, let's just do that together. I'm going to pull that out. So that's not showing on the front. Okay, let's see. I think that's better. Yeah, you can't see that now. All right, so they're pretty even. They're not exact, which is okay too. All right, so go ahead and let's do the other side connected and make sure you clip your centers. I don't have this one clipped. So I'm going to clip my center and we'll add the piping to the other side, or we'll add this back piece to the other side of the gusset. All right, right sides together, match your centers, and clip it in place. And let's do it. All right, the outside exterior is done. So there you have your piping. It looks really pretty good. I think it looks good. And then you have your sides. Then you have your back. I need to just work on getting that pulled out a little bit. That overlay over the back of the flap. Your side connectors. Your outside zipper pocket, which is huge, really. And then, you know, your flap with your 2 magnetic snaps for closure, and then your front, huge front pocket. So, that is the exterior. Now, we just have to do the interior. And the interior on this one, I'm only going to do an interior zipper pocket. I'm not going to put the slip pockets on the front. On mine, I find that I don't use them very often because they're kind of hard to get to. When pockets are on the front of a panel, they're kind of hard to get to. Plus, I have a zipper pocket here. I'll have a zipper pocket in the back inside, and then I have a big slip pocket here. So I don't think I need those interior slip pockets. All right, so let's set those aside, and I will get ready, and we will do the interior, which will go really pretty fast. All right, we finished the outside, and now we're ready to do the interior lining. And I already put my zipper facing on. The pattern doesn't call for that, but as you know, if you've watched any of my videos, I like to do zipper facing. So I just put that around, and I sewed around the outer portion, and I cut it out in the back. There is double-sided tape there that I'll use to install my zipper. So that's just one. I think I came down, let me measure. I think I came down 1.5 inches from the top. Yeah, 1.5 inches, and I centered it. All right, so that's that. So then for my zipper, I'm gonna do it the same way I've always done on my zippers with the facing is I sewed face up zipper pocket lining, face up zipper. Zipper pull to the left. I basted that in place. And then I'm just going to pull that zipper up to the wrong side. So again, my zipper is face up and my lining is face up. And again, I'm just going to base that in place at an 1/8 inch seam allowance. Nothing fancy for this. You can see I always make my zipper tape longer than it needs to be. I just like to have a little wiggle room there. All right, so that's what you should have. So I'm going to take this over to my iron and flatten that out. Actually, I think what I'll do, so I don't have to stop the videos, I'll just put a piece of 1/8 inch tape on both sides to flatten it out. On both sides. Again, I'm using cotton here, so I could go over and iron it. And if you don't have double-sided tape, just do that. Very sticky double-sided tape. And all I'm doing is flattening that zipper to my zipper pocket so that when I go to install it, I'm not fighting that. And that same thing, if you ironed it, you get the same effect. You can get the tape off your, lordy. You can get the tape off your double-sided tape. I really do like this double-sided tape the best, but the tape doesn't like to come off. There we go. Goodness gracious. Okay, same thing. Fold that down. So you can see how nice that is to put in your zipper facing. It just makes it so much easier. All right, so I have a piece of double-sided tape on this as well. So let's pull one of those off. And we'll get that in there with the zipper pull to the left. We'll attach that pretty evenly with the same amount of zipper tape showing on the top as the bottom. Now see, those two pieces came off easily. I don't know. Okay, and then make sure that you have your zipper pull pulled in before you sew it. All right, because I am going to use this pocket, this interior zipper pocket, I am going to use that to finish my base. I am going to cut that in two. You see me do this multiple times, and I'm going to fold those ends up just a little. You should try this. It really does help with folding it up when you go to finish the zipper pocket after you finished your lining piece. It does really help. Okay. All right, so don't forget, we got to do, actually, don't clip those yet. Goofy girl. It's early here, so there you go, that's why. That's my excuse. All right, so splay your zipper pocket out, and we are gonna top stitch. I'll do it here. And because I'm using black thread, I am gonna pull that to the back rather than back stitch. So I just have both my zipper pockets on either side of my zipper. So I'm not gonna close that when I top stitch this. My thread got caught in my seam. There we go. Again, make sure your bottom is down. And I'm going to pull that top thread to the back. Get my zipper pull out of the way. Again, I'm not going to back stitch here. I'm going to pull that to the back. And tie those off. This really helps when you're using such a contrasting thread. I'll show you what it looks like. So yeah, that looks a lot better. All right, so now we want to pull those ends of our zipper pocket together and fold those up so that when we're gonna leave the bottom open, but we're gonna close the sides. Okay, so your lining pocket face up, you're gonna fold that back and we're gonna close the sides. Same thing on this side. Lining face up, pull it back, and we're going to close the side of our zipper pocket, leaving that bottom open. I will cut off my excess zipper and burn the side of my zipper tape. And our interior pocket is done. So there's the front and there's the back. And so we will finish our lining base through this seam. You could, and I could because I'm using cotton quilting, take this over and iron it. I'm not gonna waste the time doing that. All right, for the interior gusset, we're gonna do the exact same steps that we did on the exterior. You're gonna center your marks and sew along that seam and then turn it right side out and top stitch it, just like I finished this one. Make sure that you've center marked your base as well. And we are ready to attach our gusset. So flip that over with the seam allowance going towards the base and do 1/8 of an inch top stitch. And again, if my gusset didn't match up perfectly, that looks okay. With my gusset, I'm just going to trim that ever so slightly. There we go. Not much. All right, so there you have your gusset. Your interior gusset, our two exterior, or two lining gussets, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to attach those, marking our centers. And on the zipper side, I am going to leave the bottom open for a turning hole. A pretty good turning hole, probably 6 or 7 inches, enough to get my hand in there. Grab my clips so that it's not hard to turn. You may, depending on your fabric, you may have to clip your gusset to get that to fit well. And I probably will clip that just a little. you don't have a huge seam allowance, your seam allowance is actually bigger on your lining than it is on your exterior. So keep that in mind when you're clipping your corners as how deep you want to go with your little clips. All right, I'm going to leave that open. I'm going to pull this up to the top. And then I'm just going to sew that at the seam allowance as in the pattern. And I'll repeat that on the other side, completing our lining piece. Okay, our lining is done. Now we're ready to put the two together. So take your exterior with its right side out and your lining, which is wrong side out, and we're going to put the exterior inside the lining. You want your zipper pocket to be on the back. Your flap is down, and it's going to be snug, and that's okay. May have to do some squishing to get it in there. It'll go. Okay. So now, I didn't clip my center front. That's a bummer, but I clipped everything else, so we'll just use that. So match your centers. And clip that all the way around, matching your side seams over here and making sure that your square or your D-ring is pointed down. And get that to go down. There we go. And on your side seams here, you might want to just put one on one side and one on the other. I think a lot of people call that nestling your side seams. It really helps with the bulk. Although I'm using cork and cotton canvas, I shouldn't have any issues. We'll see. All right, so clip those all the way around. You'll have to do some little finagling on your sides. Doesn't really matter what fabrics you're using, you will have to. This is a little uneven here, so I'm just going to clean that up. And then we are going to stitch that top closed all the way around and she gives you the seam allowance in the pattern. And pay attention because it's a little bigger seam allowance, which is good. It gives you a little wiggle room there. Goodness gracious. There we go. So I'm going to clip that. I'm going to put lots of clips. So take your time with this. All right, so we top stitched that, and I turned the bag. It really wasn't too bad. Now I pulled my zipper pocket lining out, and I'm going to finish this lining piece through my zipper pocket. That's why we leave that open. You don't have to do this. It just creates a nicer seam on the inside bottom. You know, a lot of people say nobody's ever going to see it, but I will. So I do it. So you're going to match up your centers on that lining bottom, and we're just going to use that larger seam allowance. So when I created that lining piece with the gusset, on the top, on each side, you start on the outside seam allowance, and then as you go down and around, you increase that seam allowance. She tells you to do that in the pattern. It helps give the lining a nice fit inside the bag. All right, so we're going to do the larger seam allowance here. And I did trim my lining seams a little bit. The other thing, and I pointed this out, but because it was going fast, you might not have seen it. So let me just point this out here. Goodness gracious. When I do linings and I leave an opening, I go up and down and then around. This really helps when you're turning to give that seam a little extra added strength. So I do that almost. I saw somebody do that. I forget who it was. It wasn't my idea, but it's a great thing to do. It might have been Lauren. I'm not sure. Either way, I mean, it's a great idea to do. All right, so stuff your lining back in there, and now we're going to just finish the zipper pocket. This, we are just going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then we are going to turn it all together and do a final top stitch all the way around the bag. And you know what I'm getting ready to say? Check your bobbin before you do a top stitch. I'm going to check mine. I should be good because I put a new one in, but I'm going to check it anyway. Just to be sure. All right, let's close up our zipper pocket. So I am using nylon thread. I hadn't figured that out because I'm burning it, but I use almost exclusively, not completely, Tex 45, primarily because that's what I started with, and thread is expensive, especially this polynylon thread. I mean, it's $15 to $22 a spool, and so I just can't afford, and I don't want to afford to have both Tex 45 and Tex 70. So since I started with Tex 45, I'm just sticking with it. All right, let's put our lining in and clip that around the top. Roll your seams out good. And clip that all the way around. And I know some people don't pay attention to this, but because I'm going to be sewing it like this, I put the flat edge of my clips on the outside so that they're easier to take out. It's not a mandatory thing, but that's how they're designed, that the flat edge is against the bed of the sewing machine when you're sewing. And if your side seams here are really thick, either hammer them down or use some type of a pressing tool to compress them just a little bit. I might do that. I'm going to see how it goes here. So do that, stitch all the way around, or clip all the way around, and then we will sew around the top at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So there we have it. Oh my gosh, that blue and the black just really turned out so good. Okay, so there's our flap. There's our front pocket, which is huge. I use it for keys, phone, and then you got your interior with an interior zipper pocket. Wow. And then you got your exterior zipper pocket as well. All right, I did finish my strap. Again, wherever there are rivets, if you don't have rivets or a rivet setting tool, just do some stitching across. Rivets aren't required. I didn't have them at first either. So I just did a shoulder strap. I did not do an adjustable. And there you have it. Let me stand up and I'll let you see what it looks like on. Okay, so here's what it looks like on. It fits really nicely underneath your arm. You could make the strap a little bit bigger and make it a crossbody, but sometimes, and cork is a lightweight material, so a crossbody would probably be fine. Some of your vinyls get pretty heavy, so it kind of bothers my shoulder over time if I'm just holding it there. But there you have it. There is your Agustina by Shambala. So go make one. Try the piping. It really isn't too bad. I think you'll be pleased. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like, and feel free to comment. Thank you. Bye-bye.